The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the Radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere. You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. This Sunday in June. June is flying by. Of course, this is what I consider the doldrums of the NFL season. Yeah, it's pretty slow out there, but that doesn't mean we aren't here with you at the Silver and Black Today. Las Vegas is only all Raiders talk show. That's right. We are the only ones who cover exclusively your future Las Vegas Raiders. Thanks for being with us today. A lot to talk about. We have a couple things that I want to highlight, and that is Raiders in the community, and we're going to talk about that here after the first break and hear from Mervyn Fernandez, Swervin' Mervyn,
yes.
Which is very exciting, and we've had him on the show before, and it'll be good to hear from him as always. It's always good to hear from former Raider greats and players, and Mervyn is going in the CFL Hall of Fame. We'll talk to him about that as well. And along this journey with me always are my two co-hosts who actually today, everybody's healthy. So we're going to go first. We're going to go first to I'll explain that, but we're not going to get into detail because we respect privacy. We have HIPAA laws here on, we abide by the HIPAA laws, right, Kelly?
I guess so. I mean, I don't.
Kelly Kreiner, ladies and gentlemen. Kelly was out of sorts last week. He was ill, but he is better now. You're feeling much better.
Yes.
And you look much better than the last time I saw you because you were in some pain, and so we're good now.
It was a little rough, yes. But I am back, and I'm at about 80%, which is what I shoot for on a daily basis.
Yep. Best you can ask for.
Yeah. Well, and that's good because we didn't have a Kelly's Corner last weekend because you weren't here, and so
I've got like 3 of them lined up if we have the time. I could go for the whole second hour of the show after this last week.
Well, yeah, and we can use it, right? Because people like that segment. I called it a segment. Oops. Radio term segment. But anyway, so we have Kelly here, and back from his sojourn to a small little golf tournament up in Northern California is the International Man of Leisure. That's his official nickname now. That does not mean he doesn't work hard. He works hard. Mr. Chaz Osborne. Yeah. Chaz, how was Northern California? How was the golf tournament?
Beautiful as ever. It was fun. Man, it was crowded.
Yeah,
it was crowded over there. But a good time.
And then you also, when you got back last week, you covered the charity softball game.
That's right.
With the Raiders and players from the Golden Knights who were there to raise money for a great cause, and that, of course, was the Tyler Robinson Foundation.
Yeah, good time.
And we're going to talk about that and hear from our own David Stepanian, our engineer and correspondent, who's going to talk to us about that. He's got sound, and you were out there, and I want to talk to you about that too because there's a little bit of controversy about that event. Not so much for folks out there, but for the media folks. We'll just let you in on that a little bit. But it was interesting to say the least. So, guys, I saw yesterday. We were all, with the exception, I think. Well, Chaz, you're a movie guy too. Yep. We saw yesterday. I took the kids. Now, you guys don't have kids, so I don't expect you to rush out to see Toy Story. But we saw Toy Story 4 yesterday, and I just want to touch on that because I think there's a lot of folks out there. I saw a lot of folks talking about it.
To Infinity and Beyond.
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh. No? Okay.
None of them.
Well,
I know what they are, but I just haven't seen them.
But you're a fan of many movies who've had sequels and has series of movies, trilogies, and so on. And there's some movies that don't need to be made, and this was one of them. And it doesn't mean it wasn't a good movie. It was a fine movie. I really liked it.
Cash grab.
But it didn't have the same oomph that it used to. And I think that's because John Lasseter, who was run out because of the Me Too stuff and some inappropriate stuff that he had or whatever, alleged. And you could feel it. You could just feel that the what was supposed to be there wasn't there. Anyway, so I'm just saying that because there's a bunch of movies coming out. It's summertime. It's a slow time in the NFL. And I saw a lot of our fans actually talking about Toy Story because a lot of them have kids in Raider Nation. And sure enough, I was also there, but not great. not great. But do you guys notice too? And I said this to you before the show started. Is it me, or is this the slowest NFL offseason in probably 3 to 5 years?
It feels like it. Because, and for the first time in a while, the NBA's kind of been like popping up in the last month that kind of took a little bit of the steam from the NFL. But it just seems like, there's just not a lot of questions out there right now. It's kind of like everybody got all their business done with free agency and everything. There's no big free agents still out there. There's no big questions on anything. It just seems like they kind of buttoned business up quick.
Right. I don't know. There's still. Did you guys see this bizarre story about Rod Smart? I guess Las Vegas Outlaws know him as He Hate Me. But last week he went missing.
What?
Yeah. So, for like 5 days they couldn't find him. Yeah, and then he was declared a missing, endangered person. Yeah, and then the next day he just popped up, and then there was a report saying that he'd been located and he's safe. And then there hasn't been anything since. I'm wondering what's the backstory there? You just go on a bender?
I was getting ready to say, I can tell you that disappearing for 3 or 4 days and nobody knows you, not that big a deal.
It was weird. No, the national news, they had it on. It was a bizarre story.
If you haven't woken up in another state, you haven't Vegas'd right.
Right.
So,
I know. And 5 days isn't the longest.
Well, that's the thing. Like 3 or 4 days, sometimes you just got to get away from
Sometimes
stuff,
you just go down to the basement.
Yeah.
And, you got to get away, right?
Listen to these two single guys saying, 5 days, no big deal. If I disappear for 5 days.
Oh, you're a family man. You're 5 kids.
Oh,
your wife.
Yeah, a day for each kid I'd be gone.
Different
5
story.
days. But anyway, so the off season has been slow, and maybe it's too because the Raiders last year were going through this big change, bringing on Tom Gruden. Reggie McKenzie was still there. Everybody kind of knew the writing on the wall there. But did I say something?
I'm just wondering who Tom Gruden is.
Did I call him Tom Gruden?
Yeah, is that?
No, that's just a lack of sleep. Tom Gruden. He's the unknown Gruden brother.
Right.
No,
he's the brains behind the operation.
I love it. Keep me honest.
That's where they win.
Keeping me honest. It's good, guys. It's good. If you didn't keep me honest, some a-hole on Twitter would. So, but anyway, last year with John Gruden and all that stuff happened, it seemed like there was so much going on. And of course, you had the holdout of Khalil Mack and then the trade and all that stuff.
Right.
So I know that factors in a little bit to it. But I want to know if you guys, to me, and Chaz, I'll start with you on this one, because for me, the idea that there's a collective bargaining agreement coming up next year that they have to negotiate, you think that has something to do with it, that perhaps with the work-related negotiations that are going to come up pretty soon, that also is playing into the slowdown?
Right. I think you're right. Everybody's thinking about that. You, as a business, you're always looking forward, and you're trying to position yourself and you're jockeying for contracts, and when you got something out on the horizon, that's substantial. So that's definitely a part of it. Like we've talked about on the show before, no news is good news, right? So as long as they're all staying, they're keeping their noses clean, that's probably a good thing. Well,
when you were in the NBA for all those years, did you find that players too, that it was top of mind for them? I know personally, when you talk about the labor union, the union for the NFL, the NFL Players Association, they're going to be negotiating all that stuff.
Right.
But how much are players? It's a year away. But if you're looking at a contract past this year and you're looking at what might happen financially with your career,
right,
is it top of mind for those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is a lot of there's so much media coverage these days, but it's amazing how much stuff they still keep in-house. So there's still a lot of things going on. They're still working and reworking and crunching all the numbers. And, you don't hear about it because they really do a pretty good job. I know you've got some insiders, but they do a pretty good job of keeping everything in-house. So that's probably why it's a little slower this year. They don't want to let out, their secrets or what their thought process is.
Their secrets. Kelly, what about you? Do you think, is there anything else at play here? And I think you're right, though. I think the NBA, there's so much going on in the NBA right now, and you have kind of what looks like the end of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. You have all this flux of these big players, Kawhi Leonard, who just won an NBA championship with Toronto, looking to go somewhere else. Is that part of it?
It is, because this is the first time I think it is, because this is the first time in a while the NBA offseason's always kind of big, but this one was supposed to be huge, And then the Katie injury, the Clay injury,
Right.
just completely threw everything out of whack. Now the Anthony Davis trade, Zion Williams getting drafted. It's just right now the NBA's got, the NBA's kind of got their little time to go. And, once summer league's over, the NBA's nothing for a while, the NFL will start kicking right back up.
And the NFL had their time, with the free agency period and the draft as well. We were talking about all those things last couple months. So they were definitely more in the news than they, just a quiet time of the year right now.
It just shows you the difference in the sports. You spend 3 months talking about the NFL draft. You have 3 days of draft.
Right.
I was looking up like mock draft podcasts and stuff for the NBA, there's nothing out there. There's 1,000 NFL drafts.
Right.
And this was the biggest draft since LeBron James came out as far as star power.
Right.
Just by Zion Williams, and no one cared.
Well, and the NBA players have so much more power. It's a player league now, right? I mean, the way things work, they can dictate much more of how the offseason goes.
Absolutely.
So if the player's active and wants to do something, whether it be demand a trade, whether it be free agency, it seems like they take a lot more air out of the room.
Yeah, the superstars can.
Yep. Right.
Your very good to mid-level guys still don't have it. They can, they can say what they want, do what they want, but they're not going to have the pull or the power to get it done.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Boy, we are coming up on a break now.
All right.
And when we come back, we have a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to hear about the Raiders in the Las Vegas community. They continue to knock it out of the park. Our own Chaz Osborne was out at the event this week, and he's going to talk a little bit more about that. And we're going to hear from Mervyn Fernandez and talk a little bit about the Battle for Vegas. David Stepanian has a report for us on that here on the Silver and Black Today. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The Dodgers take on the Rockies today at noon on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Good morning, Raider Nation. Thanks for being with us. And a reminder, we are streaming live on video again today. You can check us out at YouTube. Search Silver and Black Today for our channel. Also on our Facebook page. Up on Twitter via Periscope. And on Twitch. If you're a gamer, we're there as well. We don't have a lot of viewers on
I'm guessing.
Twitch, I'll be honest.
Don't most Twitch people go to bed like 30 minutes before we go on air?
Yeah, I think so. But we like Twitch anyway, and we reach some audience there occasionally, every once in a while. But we are back talking Raiders football, and one of the big things that we've already seen here in Las Vegas, and we talk a lot about it here on the show, is the Raiders' involvement in the Las Vegas community and how big it is already. They started this 2.5 years before the move to Las Vegas, which is now coming at the end of this season, and they continue to ramp it up. And this weekend, they had an event, an 11-on-11 football camp for local high school players.
Yep.
And so we sent out, he was done with his leisure for the week. So we sent out the international man of leisure, Chaz Osborne, who was there, as well as our engineer and correspondent, David Stepanian,
Hey.
who really wanted a shout out there because he was waving his hands at me. I was there. Remind me of a puppy on that one. Okay. But Chaz, so you went out there, and again, this is a great event, and thanks to Mike Taylor from the Raiders, who always keeps us up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, Mike's great.
So you went out there, and you tell everybody a little bit about what the event was first before we get to the sound.
Okay, so it's called it's Nike 11 On is what it's called, hosted by the Raiders.
Yeah, I want to finish your sentence. 11 on.
11 on. I know, me too. It's
No,
like
no,
11
I get it.
on what? So basically, it's a program that focuses on team play over individual recognition, and they get extra coaching, they get extra insight not only into football but into life. So the day started out with an orientation about career building and team oriented play, and then all these kids took the field to practice their drills and run plays with different coaches, that give them like a new and different perspective. And when you got a player like Willie McGinnis, talking to you and coaching you up, that could be life-changing for some of these kids.
Sure. And so you're out there and you're seeing this all go on. What was it like for those kids? I mean, could you kind of visually see how excited they were to be around the Raiders coaching or the Raiders staff and all of the different folks out there?
It seemed like they all had a little extra pep in their step out there. They were all chatting it up. You could hear a lot more extra noise, a lot more cheers when plays were happening, and they all seemed like they were just digging in a little bit harder, and they were listening. It was pretty fun to watch. It was pretty special. And
they're doing these all over the place here in Las Vegas, which is a big deal. So we want to do that. So first, it was out at Clark High School,
right
here in Las Vegas, and you were able to talk with Ricky Pickens, who's the head coach of Clark football out there. And here's what Coach Pickens had to say about the Raiders and what they're doing, especially with local football.
Everything, because like you said, Vegas hasn't had this particular NFL team, period. So having them come and engage in the community, their community relations guy has been nothing short of amazing. He's been very supportive. Having the Raiders just come and say, hey, we want to partner with you guys. We want to make sure that we're helping. They're not just here, but they're donating equipment. They're donating shoes. They're engaged. They're not just a partner. Raiders is family. This is family here in Las Vegas now, and so it means a whole lot. And I know Oakland has had them, and everybody else is, LA has had them, but it's nothing like Las Vegas.
Well, there you go, family, and you're hearing this, right? Because, and I think I always tell people who continue to doubt the investment using the tourism tax, the hotel tax to build the stadium. They're like, I'm not a football fan. How am I going to benefit from that, right? Yeah. This is purely now. You could argue probably kids who play football, their parents are football fans. But nonetheless, the point is the Raiders putting money, putting time into their community, and this is just another example.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Okay, then you were out there, and of course you're looking around because you know how to work a room.
Right.
That's
my demographic.
That's your demographic, yeah. But you got out there, and you were able to catch up with a guest that we've had here on the show before.
Great friend of the show.
Most Raider fans know who he is. Almost all Raider fans know who he is. But Swervin Mervyn Fernandez, of course, a wide receiver who went to San Jose State, so he's a Bay Area guy.
Yep.
Played in the Canadian Football League. You were able to catch up with him, and so we're going to give everybody the time that Chaz spent with Swervin Mervyn Fernandez, and so here it is.
We're here with Mervyn Fernandez, Swervin Mervyn. We're at the Nike 11 On, hosted by the Raiders. It basically focuses on team building. And first, talk about what you did this morning when you were talking to the kids.
Well, we had all the kids in the arena in the gym, and there's probably about 10 different schools representing their schools, and Nike's got them in T-shirts, and we basically did a Q&A, talked to them about teamwork and being accountable, and this football thing will teach you things that will carry you through the rest of your life, and it starts now. It starts now where you're in high school, and these things are gonna follow you for the rest of your life. These kids are in the age of Twitter and pictures and cell phone and Facebook, and you can be out there, do something wrong one minute, and it's on. The whole world can see you the next minute, so you really got to be accountable. You got to be smart about what you're doing, and it starts in high school. Some of these kids are seniors and going to be 18, and life is on.
Yep, you're right. Well, it's great what the NFL and the Raiders are doing. I like they're focusing on the team building instead of the individual play, and I guess that was your message to the kids this morning. So let's talk about Vegas. You're coming to Vegas a lot now. Vegas is doing the Raiders are doing so much more in the community. Your thoughts about the Raiders, and for you, once a Raider, always a Raider, right?
Yeah, always a Raider, and it's only beginning. They're going to bring so much to this city and so much to this community. This is a great day that they're having here and it's a free camp. The kids can come out here and show their skills. There's other coaches around here, and as you can hear in the background, it sounds like they're having a good time, and they'll be able to coach up, and I think they'll take away from it as the team building and have a different look at it, because when you're in high school, you're chasing the girls, you want to go to the parties, and this here is a little more structured and more focused on something, and hopefully that they follow this up, and keep it going for the rest of their life and everything that they do.
Yep, it's a great thing we're starting with. I know there's 16 NFL teams, including the Raiders, and then next year I think they're going to have all 32 teams. So, yeah, that's their ultimate goal, and it's just a great thing to start with the grassroots and get all their heads on straight from here and get them prepared for what life's going to bring for them. Now, let's talk about you personally. I'm hearing CFL Hall of Fame. Yeah. What's going on with that?
Well, the swerve is going in.
Yes.
I'm the class of 2019, me and 3 other receivers and 2 other coaches, and that'll happen in August in Hamilton. We'll unveil the bus and got to go up there and give the speech, and my family will be there, and it's just an exciting time, and I'm just blessed and honored to be chosen to go into their Hall of Fame.
Now, we've never had anything like this before in Vegas, the NFL, the Raiders. Talk about how important it is for the Raiders to get involved with the high schools and what it means to the kids, the players, to be able to do something like this and have that silver and black on their shirts and just to be affiliated with something like this.
I think it's a real special thing and a real treat for them to be able to, when they do this kind of stuff. I know it's getting closer to the season, and we're kind of getting away from their off season, but the players in the community and them to come to events like this and see, professional players that have done it and are doing it, and you could talk to them and you can, pick their brains and get some insight. And like what we did this morning, it's I never had any of this when I was growing up. I never was at a football camp or anything like that. I kind of just, winged it and did what I thought I had to do and played hard and worked out. And, but I heard things that would have benefited me as I was growing up. And they're in a special place right now.
Well, we appreciate you coming out and doing this for the kids and taking a little time to visit with us. And hopefully we'll see you down the road here in Las Vegas again, correct?
Always a pleasure, and I'll definitely be back.
All right. Congratulations. Thanks again, Mervyn.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. Swerve and Mervyn Fernandez, and a little cameo by one David Stepanian. He got his question in there. He's like, I'm going to interrupt Chaz's interview and just ask my own question. Because I'm Stepanian, and I can do that. It was a good question.
But because then Mervyn brought up a great point about, when we were young, we were knuckleheads too. We didn't have, somebody giving us.
You were a knucklehead?
Whoa, we.
We.
Who's this we? And it's good to, it's nice that you got somebody taking an interest in you and kind of directing you in the right place instead of just, letting you run wild and then not sure where you're going.
That's right.
You brought up a good point there.
Good deal. All right. Well, we are done with the first half hour, ladies and gentlemen, here on Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We're going to step aside for a word from our sponsors. When we come back, Mick Akers will dispel some of these crazy rumors. People got to stop sniffing glue about the stadium and the lack of a delay. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
CBS Sports Radio.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black today. Just a reminder, because I had a couple messages on our video feed. During the breaks, it's silent because of rights issues, and if we play commercials during the break, YouTube, Facebook, all these guys, they can suspend us and kick us off those channels. So that's why it's silent. And some great recommendations. Can you play music during I can play non-rights music during the break, or we could play something else.
And that's trash.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But also, we could get somebody to direct our video. For your knowledge, I'm directing the video as I run the show too. So one day we will have that.
And don't worry, you're not missing anything by not hearing what we're talking about between.
No, that's true. Well, maybe for you. But anyway, so we are back talking Raiders football. We're talking stadium this segment and some of the false narratives out there about a delay with the stadium. And there was an issue. If you guys are watching the construction of the stadium, the big roof trusses that are kind of giving it distinct shape where it will dome the stadium, the roof will be attached to it. You're starting to see that's what's kind of giving the stadium its shape. This past week, there was an issue with one of those trusses, which led to some crackpot theories about big delays and all this kind of stuff. But the man who wrote the story that gave us the facts about what's happening is now on the phone with us, and that is our good friend Mick Akers from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Mick, thanks for joining us this morning on Silver and Black Today.
Hey, guys. Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get to the nitty-gritty on this. What happened this week with this truss issue, first of all, and how was it rectified right away by the construction crews?
Yeah, so one of the canopy trusses on the west side of the stadium, they go through after they put them all up there and they shoot them with a laser. Just you kind of measure it where it's at, if it's in the, the right specs and all that. And they see this one was having some fit issues, and they've had it before, so they go up there and they make some adjustments and they shoot it again and they make sure, everything's all right. So this one, they were doing that, and, as they were doing it and they're making some adjustments, it wasn't, getting to the fit they wanted. So this time they actually had to take it down, which they took down, not this last Friday, but the Friday before. They took it down, did some work over that past weekend, and then by Monday morning they put it back up. And then, once it went back up, they did all the spec checks and the laser shooting on that, and, everything was good, was a go on that one, and they went ahead last week and put up 2 more trusses.
Okay, so there you have what happened and how it was rectified. Now, Mick, one of the things, like you said, there's been issues with fits before. You're talking about... And for those outside of Las Vegas, I know it's a little more difficult to visualize because unlike us, we get to see it every day because we drive by it. Everyone on the show drives by it every day. You drive by it, Mick, you're out there taking pictures and doing stories all the time. If you haven't seen it, these super cranes lift these massive roof trusses. So the fact that there's been issues with them at times is not surprising, correct?
No, obviously, these are some massive structures they're lifting up there, like between 350 and 400 tons. So, once they get up there, it's not like you're like placing like a Lego piece or something. There's like a bunch of nuts and bolts, and they have to put some other steel components to link it to other trusses that are already up there. So, obviously, just once, you get up there, you might face some issues. They factor that into the scheduling of the stadium. So, this was actually the first time they actually take it down. But aside from that, they factor these kind of things into the stadium because they know everything's not going to work 100% perfect every time. So they're not going to have a schedule where like, hey, this is all going to work, and we're not going to see anything happen where we're going to maybe, have something come out outside of the schedule, which, would put them out, would delay if they didn't factor it in. So since they factored it in, there's no delay associated with this. Everybody on board with the stadium, as far as the executive heads, Don Webb, he's adamant. July 31st, 2020 is still the date's going to get finished, and he's not budging from that.
And again, Mick Akers from the Las Vegas Review-Journal joins us talking stadium progress, stadium construction, and this week, roof trusses. But Mick, with the design of the stadium and how it's being constructed, one of the things I always talk about is how this build by design means that unlike some construction projects where you follow a linear approach to it, when they run into issues or maybe there's supply issues and maybe things are running a week behind on getting steel there or whatever it may be, they can actually move to other areas. That's why you're seeing some of that interior of the stadium actually push ahead fast. Tell everybody how that works and why, when there is a delay, it doesn't delay the overall completion date.
Yeah, so the way they're doing it, the design build concept is, as they're going and building, they're still, putting some pieces into place of the design factor. So just like you saw when they added the recent $40 million in additions, which included some new suites and some other upgrades, they did that because the design build phase lets them do that. So they're going through, and the PSL sales and ticket sales are doing well. So they're like, hey, we got this. We already met our quota on this. We have some extra money. Might as well pump it back into the stadium. So so after that happened, they went and did the whole suite thing and all that. So it's $40 million on top of that. And so when you encounter some kind of issues, you can, hey, let's go inside and start working on some stuff that we plan to work out a couple of months ahead of time. So they went in and started doing some of the interior finishes and that they were scheduled to do in a few months down the line, but they're getting it out of the way now because of the steel import. They had like a 53-day delay on that import of the steel. So that instead of waiting around and that would cause a delay, they went in and started doing some stuff ahead of time that they would, do maybe in August or September.
Okay, again, Mick Akers with the Las Vegas Review-Journal joins us talking about the stadium and progress. Quick question from just as a reminder to folks, Mick, with those trusses, they have, about half of them up? What's the total number that we're going to see by the time they get them all up to support the roof?
Yeah, that number is going to be 26 is the total amount. And just by some counts that I have right now, they're at 22, so it looks like they have 4 more to go.
4 more to go. Boy, it sounds like a big delay. No, but you talked about the suites too. I want to talk about a little bit of how the designs have changed. Those suites were really interesting to me when you wrote about that when it was first discussed at the stadium board meeting. These are smaller suites. They're like 4 or 6 people, right? So they built these. I call them almost like micro suites because the bigger luxury suites sold out, and they were I think $250,000 and above. These are about $100,000, correct? And they're smaller.
Yeah, so they won't be the full-size ones. They're fitting them in a space where, they had some other general seating previously planned, so, they don't have as much space as they had for the first suites they had in there. So, yeah, they're going to be a little bit smaller, but obviously that price point will maybe bring in some other people that maybe were looking at those other suites and maybe it was a little bit over their price point, and maybe they'll see these ones now and be like, hey, I can, get one of these suites instead. So it obviously opens up a new customer base for the suites and adds additional revenue for the money as well.
Well, and we talked about some of the challenges that the stadium faces, and just any project the size of the Las Vegas Stadium. Is there anything on the horizon that we need to watch for, Mick? I mean, everything's full speed ahead. They've not moved on the date. There's at this point, no worry about completion date, July 31st of 2020. But if people are watching anything that could maybe disrupt that a little bit, is there any one issue or challenge that they're facing that we should be concerned about?
Yeah, once they have all the trusses up and all that and they're ready to put the actual roof on, that's going to be another challenging aspect of the construction phase. That's going to use a cable net roofing. First of its kind on a major project in the U.S. They've done some stuff overseas with this, but this will be the first major project where they use this kind of roofing. And Don Webb described it as a 17-acre switch watch, kind of putting together one of those. So it's going to be very intricate. There's little margin for error with this kind of roofing. So he mentioned that this is probably one of the more challenging ones, even more than the steel, putting up all the steel around the stadium. So this one will be one to watch, especially because they're going to put most of they put the roofing on the ground in the stadium, and then they hoist it up from inside, and then that's when they install it. And they're going to leave a little section open until about next March is when they're planning to have the whole roof on, just to do some, just have a crane in there to do some work they need to do. So that's going to leave it open possibly for some weather issues, and that's one of the reasons why they started doing some interior work now, just in case they, and see some of these weather issues with that roof open. But they said they'd rather and that obviously could lead to some damage to some of the interior stuff, but they said they'd rather have that possibility and then, putting it off and it actually put them on delay. So, they'll take that risk. They said, it's a calculated risk, but, it's worth it. I think, taking that risk because obviously keeping this thing on schedule. So, watch that roof go up. That's going to be not just the next, but I think the most difficult phase of this.
Wow, yeah, so we're coming up on that, and it's fascinating just to watch the project, and no one on top of it better than Mick Akers from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, at Mick Akers, Akers is the last name. Mick, thanks for joining us, man. I'm sure we'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Yep. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. Always happy to come on.
Thanks, all Mick. Right, there's Mick Akers with your stadium update. Everything is on schedule. There is no delay. There is no other problems that are major. So there you have it. We'll come back. We'll finish our discussion around that and more here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with a radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 as we march on through the NFL dead period between now and camp, July, I think 25th, if I recall. But we're still marching on, guys. And so that was Mick Akers with a stadium update for us that is, pretty straightforward, guys. I mean, there's some folks out there who want to talk about some big delay. There is no big delay. There's challenges along the way with any big project. So, but we watch it. Now, that doesn't mean that watching it from the freeway you can see what's technically ahead or behind schedule. But you all drive by it. You were just talking about it too. You saw a truss going up, Kelly, right over the week.
Yeah, like driving down there, you see it missing. So when I had taken it down, I'm like, oh, hey. there was something there before. Yep. And then, like, the next day you're going by and you could see where they had it and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, drive by that damn thing every
I'm amazed every time I go. It looks like it's just so much more is being done daily. It's just amazing how fast they're going with everything.
Yeah, the number of people that are working on the site continues to grow as well. So we'll keep tabs on that for you all summer long, and of course into next year. And as that roof goes up, I mean, Mick talked about it. We're gonna watch that and let you know as that progresses. We'll have him back on. We'll get someone also from the project and from Stadco, the stadium company who's building it. We'll get them to come on as well to talk about project. We'll also get Tommy White from the Local 872, one of the proud sponsors, and we want to thank them, the men and women building the stadium. Want to thank them for their sponsorship of this show as well. All right, we're going to move back to something we were talking about earlier, and that was there was a charity softball game here in town between the Raiders, current players, and some alumni, led by Marcus Allen, the greatest running back in Raider history, which we're going to talk about later. Marcus Allen led a team of Raiders in a softball game against the Vegas Golden Knights, or at least some of them. And the game itself was interesting and fun. Of course, it was sold out at Las Vegas Ballpark, and a great facility, by the way. If you haven't been out there and you're in Vegas, beautiful, beautiful park. Yep. Chaz was out there. We're going to talk to him. But first, our own David Stepanian was out there, and he filed this report.
When you think of summertime sports and an evening at the ballpark, the Raiders or the Golden Knights might not be the first thing that comes to mind. But that's exactly what fans got when Hall of Famer Marcus Allen and his team of Raiders faced off against a team of mainly Golden Knights, led by Riley Smith, and all for a good cause. This was the first annual Battle for Vegas charity softball game to support the Tyler Robinson Foundation. Sold-out crowd of 10,000 was heavy on VGK fans, but Raiders' first-round pick Josh Jacobs was still excited to be in Vegas.
We're coming out here in Vegas next year, so it's definitely great to experience some of the fans and things like that. And obviously battling with the guys I'm going to be battling with for my next 4 years, or for most, definitely the season coming up. I mean, it's definitely going to be fun. Obviously, it's one of the craziest cities in the world, but it actually has a chill side. And just coming out here to this side, it's more chill. I kind of like it. It's definitely somewhere where I would think I would plan to move and stay at when I eventually come out here. So it's definitely been dope.
The game itself was one for the ages, a high-scoring back-and-forth affair, with Riley Smith's team holding a 15-6 edge late in the game. But Marcus Allen's team, wearing silver and black baseball jerseys, never gave up and mounted a comeback that would have made John Gruden proud, en route to a 20-16 victory for the Silver and Black. World Series champ Shane Victorino was in the Raiders' dugout and belted a massive home run himself to get Team Allen back in the game. Victorino's been in a lot of big games in the big leagues, but this was a game he won't soon forget.
This was funny. A lot of manipulating of lineups, but we had a lot of fun. I think that's what it's all about, bringing excitement. We were at that point when they did score the 10 runs. We were like out of it, so we said, we might as well try and energize something up, but we did, so we had fun. If you understand what some of these things are all about, and you start researching, having one of my own, I understand the hard work, what it does to change families' lives, especially ones that are affected. I mean, there's more than just the kid that's suffering or the person that's suffering. It's everything else that comes with it, the families and everybody and the loved ones. So, it's awesome to be out here, and, it's a fun night, and we enjoyed ourselves.
The Tyler Robinson Foundation ended up raising $136,000, thanks in part to Zappos donating $1,000 for each run scored. The Tyler Robinson Foundation helps families whose children have been diagnosed with cancer. To find out more, head to trf.org. For Silver and Black Today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right, great report there by David Stepanian. Great editing use of organ music.
Thank you.
Fantastic,
Thank
dude.
you.
That was good.
That was great.
I thought this was the perfect time to, just have a little fun with the story.
Yeah.
They're having fun out on the field. I wanted to have fun with this story.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was fun.
Yes, and you were out there too, Chaz, and what a great event. We had Kim Gratishire from the Tyler Robinson Foundation, the Imagine Dragons. She was on the show a few weeks ago to promote the event, and by the way, the charity, Imagine Dragons, Kim, all fantastic people, and a great cause, clearly. And the Raiders, again, we talked about community earlier. They're there for this game as well.
Yeah, it seems like every other week the Raiders are doing something out in the community. And, I mean, what a great thing. It sold out stadium.
Sold out 10,000 fans. It was crazy. It was 80. It was, I would say, more than 80% Golden Knights fans. We were talking off air. I would say closer to 90%. But they were getting
all
into
Golden
it,
Knights.
man. I couldn't believe when the Raiders won. There was a group of fans on the first base side that were booing the Raiders and chanting "Go Knights, go!"
And then you saw
Vontaze Burfict came over. I guess he got a little upset, and he was like, "This is our town now. This is our town now."
And he's right. And he tackled somebody. No, but it brings up a good point though, because again, I want to say congratulations to the Tyler Robinson Foundation and Kim Gratishire for the money they raised. The event, the softball game, a great event. There was issues with it though, and it had to do more with the media stuff. So I know for all of you out there, it's like, shut up. They raised money, and that's true. But there was not a lot of access. We could not get on the field before the game and talk to players. Right. Nobody could except for the one TV station that sponsored. I don't mind. Kelly, you brought it up earlier. If somebody sponsors an event, they should get.
You pay for access.
They get more access, and I got no problem with that. But when you shut everyone else out,
right?
And David, only because he basically broke the rules and got down there.
God bless him.
I mean, you did.
I wasn't the only one.
No, you weren't the only one. I'm not saying that.
Blended in.
But you had to break the rules to do your job.
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
they weren't making it easier. So the PR folks that ran the event, I think, did not do a good job. The other thing I want to talk about, and I know Raider fans might get a little bored real quick with this, so I'll make it a quick point. The Golden Knights, you're right, because they've been here now going on to their third season, and they've been to a Stanley Cup final. Of course, fans come out. Raiders, when they get here next year, again, I think it's going to dwarf NHL hockey. But the thing is, I noticed who wasn't there for the Golden Knights. And the point about that is there's been reports about locker room issues. So
me?
Stasny was not there. Pacioretty was not there, right? So two of their top players were, and Stone wasn't there either. So anyway, when we come back after this commercial break, we'll have more for you. Are the Raiders interested in Jalen Ramsey? We'll talk about that and whether it would be a good idea for this team to think about it. You're listening to Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. The nation and the league arrive in Las Vegas in 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, emanating from my town, your town, everybody's town.
The chill side. The chill side of town.
Chill sounds. Dope. Las Vegas, Nevada. There's nothing like a middle-aged mixed race, because I'm a mixed race guy.
You are?
Yeah. White guy.
I had more of a problem with middle age. You're old, dude.
That's okay. That's
You're
right.
hanging on to the middle part.
And you don't be ageist.
No, I'm middle-aged. You're old.
Dude, I'm only 9 years older than you. What are you talking about?
That's a decade.
And by the way, it comes fast, my friend. So just get ready.
That's what she said.
Oh,
Hey, now. This is a family show, Chaz.
Sorry.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, anyway, I forgot what I was saying because Kelly derailed us, which is great. He does.
Talking about dope.
Yeah,
You're talking about a middle-aged man saying dope.
Saying
two
dope.
of us, I derailed this one.
I think once you pass the age of 26,
you can't say dope.
You shouldn't be able to say dope. I see people do it on Twitter, and I get sometimes it's cultural, and I got no issue with that, but it just looks dumb. Like you got somebody talking about, I've seen reporters in their 40s
saying it's dope.
Saying it just doesn't.
Hey,
doesn't sound
Chaz, I think we walked on somebody's lawn.
That's right, you did. Get off my lawn. All right. Get off my dope lawn.
Dope was something you smoked.
All right, we're back and we're talking Raiders. Now, Brad Gagnon from Bleacher Report wrote a story this week about possible trades you may see in the NFL. And one of those trades is very interesting, and it's been talked about a lot out there amongst Raider Nation and the media, and that is, could the Raiders, who continually need cornerbacks, could they trade for the Jaguars' Jalen Ramsey, former All-Pro, coming off a subpar season, which Kelly has a word for?
Trash.
That's right. Jalen Ramsey. So could the Raiders trade for Jalen Ramsey, and would it be a good trade, and what would they have to give up? I'm going to start with Kelly because he's a realist, as they call it. Kelly, would this be a good move for the Raiders to go out and get Jalen Ramsey, who has a $34 million, has a 5-year option, 5th-year option that'll cost them $13.7 million?
I had him as the third best prospect coming out in that draft, and I thought he had a chance to be a shutdown corner. He
has been at times.
And he's kind of proved that he has that ability there. But just watching the last half of the season last year and how he handled it in the locker room, basically throwing everybody he could under the bus but himself, I'm not paying that guy a huge contract and putting him in my locker room, let alone giving up. I mean, they're going to want a first. It would be multiple seconds at least to get him because he does have that all-pro pedigree, and I'm fine with not having that on my team.
So, but Kelly, let me ask you this question. So, devil's advocate, I hear what you're saying, and last year, I don't dispute what you say about his, especially second half of last year, as the Jaguars were a soap opera, basically, in every possible way. But that talent, you saw all-pro talent the year before. Is it your view that he's not going to ever get back there?
I see a better chance that not that he's never going to get back there, but I see more of a clear thing of him being a middling to good, not great secondary.
Okay. Sometimes a change of scenery, definitely helps that kind of a situation.
Yeah, everybody says that, and it works out sometimes. But when
60% of the time, it works
all the time. Yeah, when it doesn't work, it blows up in your face immediately. And in this situation, you're going to have to sign him.
Right. Well, Chaz, when you say that, you say a change of scenery. Why do you think with Jalen Ramsey going to the Raiders would be a good move?
Well, actually, I don't. I agree with Kelly on this one. I'm just saying that, sometimes when people get in a situation, a change of scenery, and then they can blossom. He's still a young player, so he's still got a lot of years ahead of him. This Raiders team, I still see a lot of moving parts on the defense. And I feel like this upcoming season is just going to be kind of a, feeling out who fits where kind of season. And it would be great to have that type of a talent of a player. But now we're worried about, here's the naysayers talking about the attitude with Antonio Brown maybe being a distraction. Now, Burfict, maybe Richie Incognito. And then now you're adding another, log on that fire. Maybe that's not the best idea. And just for me personally, I don't feel like we need that. Right now, they're still trying to figure out where everybody's going to fit and what's going to be the best thing going forward. We got a great young core, and let's just stick with that and develop that for now.
But because of, to say that the Raiders shouldn't go get an outspoken person is, and I know
that's
go back.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
Well, but they've done that 3 or 4 times already.
Right.
So what's another one?
Though that's the thing.
With the
it's
talent.
Like they should have stopped before. So let's not keep. It's like. We've already thrown enough logs on this fire. At what point are you just going to burn everything down if you keep adding to it?
Right.
No, I understand that. I like Jalen Ramsey. I think just like anything, and Kelly, you and I talk about this all the time, both on the air and off the air, and that is it depends on the price. You talked about possible prices, but if that price goes down, and maybe that would be more concerning if the price went down, that means maybe there's something else.
Right.
But if the price went down and you could get him for what could seemingly be, if he lives up to his potential, a steal, would you do it then?
No, because the price of what it's going to cost you to get him may go down. The price of what it's going to cost to keep him is going to be top 4 or 5 cornerback money at the least.
Right.
He may.
But they have the money now, don't they?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm not spending that on him though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So you rather go young and get a college kid?
Yeah.
Like who in the draft next year, instead of spending the money on somebody like Ramsey, who would you go get?
The first one that pops into mind, I know he's a safety, but I think he can play cornerback, is Grant Delpit out of LSU. He's one of the probably 2 or 3 best players in college football, which is saying something because this draft has some of this. That's what nothing against Jacobs. I wanted all defense in this draft by the Raiders because next year the offensive talent in this draft at running back and wide receiver is 10 times better than what this past draft was. There are 4 or 5 wide receivers that legitimately are first-round picks. There's 3 or 4 running backs that you won't see it because they don't value running back. But Etienne out of Clemson would be he'd be the number 1 running back the last 4 drafts. You know, so I wanted to see, Byron Murphy to me is a perfect Raider on the other side of Conley. You could have had him at either one of those picks in the 20s.
And we talked about that, right, during the draft show, the CBS Sports Radio 1140 draft show, which was live from Born and Raised here in Las Vegas. We talked about that, right? And we talked about how I thought the same thing. And I love Josh Jacobs. I think, and we'll talk about it later in the summer, I think he may end up being Rookie of the Year. But you look at the needs you have and what you need to develop. And I still think there is a lot of question marks. I like Garyon Conley a lot. I mean, I really am a fan of his and the way he plays. But he hasn't proven anything yet.
When he plays.
Correct. When he plays. Yeah. He hasn't proven everything yet. And so if you're the Raiders, you it's a tough position to be in because to your point, you can go get somebody in the draft because there's great talent there. But are you going to go into the season and have just a crap show back there with what you have? I don't know. I think they've upgraded a lot on the defensive side of the ball. But there's a lot of ifs there, and if those ifs don't come through, it could be a disaster.
Yeah, I don't see the secondary being the biggest issue on the defense. It could be. It could easily, if Conley gets hurt again, Worley doesn't turn anything on. And, the first ball thrown at our rookie from Clemson will be the first ball he's had thrown at him in 3 years apparently because no one went after Mullen in college.
And the other point with Ramsey is, can't we just pick him up in free agency at the end of next year? Right? Is he going to be available?
I.e. the Anthony Davis quandary?
Exactly. Why give up everything when you can just pick him up in free agency at the end of the season?
Because you're going to have more people going after. Jalen Ramsey hasn't said, I'm only going to one team, like Anthony Davis, who was only going to one team.
Right.
Well, amazing. The other name that's in that article from Bleacher Report about the Raiders and a possible trade fit would be for the Falcons defensive end Vic Beasley. Thoughts on that one? Kelly's laughing. I think that's an endorsement. I think it's a stupid.
We've got very little pass rush, so let's trade for a guy who has had one really good
good year.
Well, not even great. One good season, and just sucked the rest.
Yep.
And I can't figure out if
a change of scenery will do him good.
I can't, Kelly. I can't figure out if some of these national writers, I get you look at players, you say, who needs that position? So the Raiders clearly last year, no pass rush. Arden Key couldn't finish anything. So they had they're looking for defensive ends, right? So they're developing some players. They have some pieces there that they're going to try to work out, but it's a need. So I get it, but that doesn't mean that a need means you're going to go out and get a guy that's not playing anywhere near anywhere people thought he would be.
You get him for a 4th or 5th round pick because he's on a contract year. Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle for that 1 year, and they're like, your contract's up. Peace, buddy. Sweet.
All right, that ends this discussion about Jalen Ramsey and Vic Beasley. Not a lot of support here for those trades if they were to ever happen, which I don't think they ever will. But when we come back, the raging debate continues. Who was the best running back in the history of the Silver and Black? What running back in Raiders history, in your mind, is the best? Call in 702-889-5978. Be part of our debate next here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Oh, yes, it is. Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Check out the website, silverandblacktoday.com. That's kind of started this whole thing, followed by a podcast, followed by a radio show, and more to come. Wait till this fall. That's all I got to say. And next year when the Raiders get here, oh boy, it's going to be fun, guys. But we are now going to have a debate that rages on. Last week we were supposed to have this throwdown, but Kelly was under the weather. So I kind of had it by myself a little bit, made the case since I was solo on the show because international man of leisure Chaz Osborne was out of town on assignment.
Yeah,
that's right.
And
I got to listen to last week's show. I haven't listened to it.
I want to
yet.
hear what a throwdown by yourself.
And I haven't talked about last week's show, but it set a record for downloads for us, for post archival stuff because of the Todd Marinovich interview. And it was a fascinating interview, and I'm rooting for Todd to make it in life. Who cares about football since he's done with that? But great artist, and it was an interesting interview, and I appreciate him doing it with us, as not a lot of folks are interviewing him or have talked to him. And so, if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. But guys, we did talk about this, and this started with Kelly and I having a little bit of a discussion about it. Was who is the best running back in Raiders history? Now, we want you to chime in on this as we talk about this. So call in 702-889-5978 and make your case. Don't just say, blah was the best running back and then just, talk trash. Make a case on why whoever you select is the guy. For us, and Kelly, we're going to start with you again. For you, it is not Marcus Allen who should be. You instead say it's another player. Tell us who you think the best running back is.
I'm saying Bo Jackson.
A lot of people do. And,
I know that Marcus Allen's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
He was a great running back. I'm not saying he wasn't good. It's hard to try to win an argument when a guy plays 3 years and you're saying he was a better running back than a Hall of Famer. But that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm saying it for the pure and simple reason that just if you look at, we're projecting what Bo could have done if he doesn't get hurt, but that's part of the thing. It's like I brought the point up earlier, you can't look at just straight statistics because if you do that, Frank Gore is going to be the fourth best running back in the history of the NFL. Neil Anderson would be considered a better running back than Gale Sayers. Right. It's like sometimes you have to look past the stats at just what that person did.
Right.
It's what you just saw power and speed in Bo Jackson you just hadn't seen since Jim Brown.
He was amazing.
And to your point, don't get me wrong either too, because I love Bo Jackson. He's sitting in Funko form in our studio here. That's right behind me.
There's Bo.
For those of you watching,
is there a Marcus Allen Funko?
There is not.
Did they make one?
They probably did. I have Derek Carr and I have
was Marcus
Bo Jackson
Allen.
here.
It was Marcus Allen on the cover of Tecmo Bowl.
Well, if you want to talk about Tecmo Bowl, there is no better player in history than Bo Jackson. That's a proven fact.
Well, sticking with the baseball theme, can you?
Actually, if you're talking about Tecmo Bowl, there is no better player than Dan Salimua on Kansas City because there was a cheat thing. You just held down the button, he would slide through the center every time, and they couldn't get a playoff. He would fumble every time.
I love it. But when we talk about Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson, like you said, 3 years, shortened career because of injury, no doubt about it, and still one of the most amazing athletes to play sports. Forget football, forget baseball, just in general, amazing person and athlete. Total numbers, just under 3,000 yards for a career on 515 rushes. Now, you look at Marcus Allen, of course, a longer career, 16 seasons, 12,000 yards, 243 to be exact, 3,000 rushes.
For the sake of the argument, if it's Raiders running back, I guess you just need to look at his 11 seasons.
Correct. In 11 season, he was just under 9,000 yards.
Right.
So still, and those were 2 seasons where Al Davis put him in the doghouse and wouldn't play him. So to me,
he was prolonging his career.
Why didn't he play him?
He was trying to help him prolong his career. So he was doing him a favor.
Why didn't he retire a Raider? Why would they get rid of Marcus Allen? Because they had Bo Jackson.
Oh, that's
boy.
the
Look
argument.
at you.
So Bo Jackson is better. That makes
but
sense.
Kelly, and I don't agree that I don't disagree that it's fascinating to think about what Bo could have been. But we don't live in a world where you base those, I think, on what could have been. I could have gone to Harvard. I could have gone to Stanford. I could have founded Facebook.
No, you
I
couldn't.
didn't.
No, you couldn't have.
Bull.
No.
I could have.
It's amazing.
So, as someone who got waitlisted at Stanford going into college, you could not have gotten to Stanford.
Okay, I could have gone to UC San Diego. No. So to me, but you don't have my point. My point that I'm making is I'm not taking anything away from Bo Jackson, his explosiveness. Had he played for 10 years, that's the other question, though. With his running style and his combination of power and speed and the abuse he would have taken as much abuse as he dished out, I don't know that he could have lasted 10 seasons.
Well,
even without that injury, Chaz, right?
Yeah, he would have. He was a beast.
I was gonna.
I'm with the Jackson fanboys.
Sorry, Kelly just convinced me. I was on the fence, and now I'm on Bo Jackson.
But it's like, what do you mean by best running back? Also, is it like you said, if you're
Purely
doing the whole
numbers.
career, if you're looking at just
all around running back,
and I brought it up earlier, if you're starting a team and you're getting these guys when they first come in the league, however, like at their prime, are you taking Bo Jackson or Marcus Allen to start your team?
And I think there's good arguments both ways.
Yeah,
because Bo Jackson, as powerful as he
earlier?
was, that's off the air. Don't say that. No, as powerful as he was, you look at the specimen of athlete that Bo Jackson was, guys, and yes, you say, oh, I'd start my franchise around him. From that, and that's what I said to you before the show started, right? And I think that's true. But when you look at Marcus Allen, the steadiness, the ability to not only run the ball, but catch the ball and block, by the way. Marcus Allen never gets the credit he deserves for blocking.
Right. He was a great
receiver.
receiver.
He did amazing. And he was a great receiver, Chaz. You're right. So from an all-around player perspective, there's no doubt in my mind it's Marcus Allen and the numbers. And because Jackson's career was aborted early because of the injury, not his fault, we just don't have enough data to say that he would have been better. We just don't. I don't think.
Bo Jackson treated football like a hobby, and he was that good.
That's right.
No,
you're right. You're right.
He said football was his hobby.
I know.
Yes. Bo knows.
But once again, who did you say you would pick between the two to start your team?
I honestly, I would say Jackson from an athlete standpoint, but if I looked at it from the standpoint of a sure thing on having a guy who's going to be there 10 years, I would take Marcus Allen. And I still think Marcus Allen's the best running back in Raider history.
But if you're starting a team, you don't have guarantees.
Let me end it by saying Marcus Allen is the best running back the Raiders have ever had. That's plain and simple. Now, Kelly, for you being a realist, I can't believe that you're going on hypotheticals here. You're arguing hypotheticals.
Well, but that just makes me feel good because if you're agreeing with him, I won the argument.
Listen, Bo Jackson.
I'm making the point that if I was picking one of those, when I say, oh, hey, who's the best if I'm picking one or two to start a franchise, I'm picking Bo Jackson.
Of course.
Because like I said, it is.
And if you project out his career and you take those 4 years and you double him or triple him, he's got the best numbers maybe in the history of the game. Of course. But we can't project it out. If Bo Jackson wins a Super Bowl and he's the Super Bowl MVP and he sets a Super Bowl record for rushing yards and has probably the most electrifying run I've ever seen in a Super Bowl, then maybe you can compare the two. But, Marcus Allen's longevity, his career just solely with the Raiders makes him the best running back in Raiders history.
Cool. I won the argument.
Dope.
Yeah. But again, I just it's hard to think in terms, Kelly, of hypotheticals.
Right.
I know, and like I said, we're splitting hairs here.
No, we are because it's June.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
But still, it's a heated argument in Raider Nation. A lot of people take your side.
It's like you're saying. You're saying he's the best, yet you said if I'm starting a team, I'm picking Bo Jackson.
But they're separate from one another. They're separate from one another because the best running back in the history of the team versus who would you start your team around is a different question. Mm-hmm. It is.
But it's also what do you mean by best running back in the history of the team? Because that, like I said, if you're adding in the longevity, Neil Anderson's better than Gale Sayers.
Who contributed more to the success of the Raiders?
That's got nothing to do with the best player, though.
Sure, it does.
That's because if you're talking about just the physical player,
No, your argument is valid. There's no doubt.
And that,
No
like I
doubt.
said, that's the way I look at that, and that's the way I took that. If you want to say who had the best career for the Raiders, it's a no-brainer.
Well, yeah. And
But
that,
like I said, if you do that, you're saying that Neil Anderson's better than Gale Sayers.
well, and I think I still think too. Part of me with
Frank
this
Gore's better than everybody.
before we step aside to pay some bills here. For me, though, Marcus Allen too is one of the most underappreciated running backs in NFL history because of his nature, because he didn't have blinding speed. He didn't have the speed of a Bo Jackson or of some of those other running backs. He just didn't. But man, did he do everything else?
But he was so smooth when he ran.
He
it was
was.
like water going through rocks, man.
Do you know who's not underappreciated?
Who?
Bo Jackson,
Oh, man.
because he's great.
Here we go.
Okay, we're going to step aside. Tell us what you think. 702-889-5978. You're listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
CBS Sports Radio.
How you doing? This is Charlie Garner, and you're listening to Silver and Black today. Stay tuned.
Hey, Charlie Garner, bringing us back in as we work in our new rejoins. Oh, I like the bass there. Turn up that bass there. Give me some. Slap the bass. Okay, that's another movie reference. All right, welcome back to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140, where we're having a ton of fun today, arguing with each other. We do it off the air. We do it on the air.
Yep.
And it's awesome. We're having a good time. It's June. It's the dead period in the NFL. So we are, for those of you who want us to just talk about the same old Raider stuff over and over again, there's lots of podcasts where you can hear that, and good on them. They do good work, but that's not what we do here. So we are now going to get to one of everyone's favorite segments, especially those people who don't like Kelly. They love this segment.
Whoa.
Which is the vast
doesn't like Kelly?
vast majority of the listenership, I hear.
No, Kelly's a teddy bear. Everybody loves him.
That's right.
This is Kelly's Corner. Kelly picks a subject out large, relates it to sports, and we banter it about. So here is...
Or tries to.
Or tries to. When he's here.
Yeah.
Kelly's Corner. Go ahead, Kelly.
All right. Now, I will relate this to sports, I promise, but it's going to take a second.
Everybody just tuned out.
One of my biggest pet peeves is I can't stand when people complain about either their job or their pay at their job. Okay? You choose what job you have. If you don't think that job's going to pay you enough money, get a better job. Don't take the job. Get a skill. Do something that will get you to where you can get to that level of what you want to make.
Right.
Okay? You don't make a salary, you take a salary. You are offered something, and you can say yes or no. You don't have to take it. Okay? I bring this up because all I've been hearing and reading the last week is about the U.S. women's national soccer team and about how everybody wants equal pay with the men's team and everything like that. You know, my biggest issue with this, and it's the one thing nobody ever brings up, is that they separately, collectively bargain their salaries. The men's team, if you don't play, you don't get paid. Flat out. On the women's team, if you're on the team, you get your biweekly check. They negotiated, they wanted guaranteed contracts. They wanted the biweekly checks. If one of the girls if one of the women take off to have a baby, they get half their pay. If they play for a professional, that the U.S. professional league that started, you still got your pay from that, from the Olympic Committee or the Olympic national team. If one of the men's players takes off to play professional, they don't get paid.
Right.
You know? So if they wanted, they set out and they said, here's what we want. Here's what we want out of this. And they set it down and they said, okay, we'll take that. They took that.
Right.
It was a bad deal, and it was in their best interest at the time,
Right.
but financially it wasn't the best option they could have taken. Now, you don't hear that, hey, listen, made a bad deal, they're going to renegotiate it, they're going to get more money, they deserve it, but don't tell me that it's inequality and it's unfair just because they're women. No, they had every opportunity to get everything they wanted, and here's Here's what you want. We're going to give you this. Well, they said yes.
We
live with that.
We see this, and again, Kelly, you are talking about football. It's just not American football.
No, it's soccer.
It's soccer. Yeah. Soccer. Yes, and here's my point too with that, which is, you're right. They made the deal, right? And not only that, but this is professional. I know the U.S. national team is supposed to be amateur, but really it's professional now. That whole veil is gone.
No, they
get paid.
They've never had that in like soccer and stuff like that. It's it's always been a professional sport.
Right. So with that said, and we were talking about this during the break as we prep for this segment, was the fact that when you have a business, if I have a business and I say, hey, I'm opening up like I am a coffee shop, and then there's a coffee shop a mile away, and that coffee shop is doing better, making more money, and I know this is not a gender thing, but just stay with me, and they're making more money because they're better coffee, more people go there, most of all, more people go there, and you have more customers, then guess what? They're going to make more money than I am. And the bottom line is, and I worked in women's sports, I worked in women's college sports, and loved it. Incredible athletes, just as talented at their level as the men in much different ways when you're talking basketball or any of the other sports. But at the same time, what drives income when you get to professional sports? WNBA, the girls here in Las Vegas with the Aces, or women, excuse me, with the Las Vegas Aces, great athletes, phenomenal. I'm glad they're in town. They're not going to get ratings like the NBA is going to get. So guess what? You can't pay equally when the money isn't coming in. The WNBA loses money. Women's soccer, as popular as it's gotten when they get to these national tournaments, does not make the same money. When you make the same money, then you can draw the same salary.
Actually, they have, like in the last couple years, starting at that point where they're outdrawing in like stadiums and stuff. But like, especially when you're talking about the World Cup, the money on the men's side on TV rights and all that stuff is dwarfing the women's side, but in stadium stuff, they're starting to kind of catch up and get better, and they say they want equal pay for equal work, but it's not even that equal, because for the Women's World Cup team, they play 5 games in 2 weeks to get into the World Cup. The men, it's 16 games over 2 years. Right. So I mean, it's just, but my whole thing, it's not even that. It's they collectively bargained this. And they made here. They're like, here's what we want. We want this, this, and this. And they're like, okay, you're going to get this. And now they're complaining about the deal they got. Right. If they would say, you know what, we made a bad deal, we should have done this, I'd be fine with it. But they're throwing out this whole, women get paid less than men, blah, blah. No, they took less than the men. Well, and they had every chance to get anything they wanted. And they took what they were offered instead of saying
And you're not even talking about gender equity here. You're talking about, look, you made a deal, you got to stick to it.
I'm talking about that they're trying to make it into gender equity.
It's not the same argument.
It's not that where it's they. You know what? They asked for this stuff and got it.
Right. But even on
they decided to take less to get what they wanted, and now they're complaining that they're not getting as much as the other one. Well, do that in your deal.
Right.
Make a better deal.
But then even on the gender side, I think, a lot of the women's basketball coaches came out with some pointed comments around the women's basketball tournament about equality and getting as much exposure as the men. They have an argument, I believe. And I agree with them, because you're talking about college sports. Now, college sports, we could argue, is no longer amateur because of the money involved.
Right.
So it goes back to money. I'm not saying it's right. Don't get me wrong when you listen to this and try to take my words out of context. I'm not saying it's right in college sports that the men get more because they make more money. I think in college sports you have an argument that, look, it's amateur, it's university-based, it should be more equal. Title IX was there for that reason, and so I get it. But even then, there's a reason why they call them Olympic sports in college. They don't call them minor sports like they used to. It's because they don't generate revenue.
There would be no women's sports except softball if it wasn't for men's sports.
Correct.
They make men's sports, like Alabama's football team, Texas's football team. They fund everything.
Right.
Women's softball has turned into a generating revenue sport. basketball in certain schools will.
Yes.
UConn basketball,
Yeah.
they're
UConn,
generating
LSU,
they're generating revenue. For the bulk of any other women's sports, they can't pay for themselves.
Right.
No, and that's the thing with the soccer. You're going back to that. Look, I don't mind people. It doesn't bother me when people are outspoken, even when I vehemently disagree with them. I'm okay with it. I'm a firm believer in freedom of speech. I'm also a believer in you being able to disagree with that person openly and not be called something because you disagree with their point of view. So I'm good with all of that, and I'm good with women talking about how they need more opportunity. I think women need more opportunity in certain areas. There's no doubt about it. Now, the NHL, our friend Willie Ramirez with AP wrote a story. He was talking about how the NHL was having a forum with Billie Jean King about more opportunity for women in hockey. I guess that's become an issue in hockey. So then if you're the NHL, do you start a WNBA version of the NHL? The problem is the NHL makes nowhere near the money that the NBA does. You couldn't float it.
Yeah.
You could not.
You can't do that. And it's funny.
And the NFL can't do it either. There's not enough women who are playing football.
Because you'll have people that bring up, when you talk about the WNBA not making money, they'll be like, oh, well, there's NBA teams that lose money every year. Well, yes, they lose money in an operational per year, but the franchise value, nobody's paying $2 billion for the WNBA, let alone a team. Right. Like, we've seen two teams already.
Are you saying
in the
you
NBA.
could buy the Dallas Wings?
Probably.
You could get a group together.
Let me see.
You're taking your wallet out, you smart ass. Gosh.
I could split it with you.
Oh.
And guess what? I made more money that night than that franchise probably did.
Well, and that's the thing. Again, Kelly, thank you for your corner. You always bring up thought-provoking stuff and this. And if you don't like it because it's not Raider football, sorry. It's just the way it is. We talk a lot about Raider stuff here too as well. But, it's an interesting point. Women are fired up about it. But to your point, if you make a deal, you got to stick to it. You made the deal. Amazing. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll close out the show. We'll preview next week's show. And a guest we're going to have on, talk a little bit about Lyle Alzado. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 to find help today. SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org also has resources for healthcare providers, friends, and family. If you want to help someone who's pregnant and using, visit SoberMomsHealthyBabies.org or call 211 today. Sponsored by the Nevada Division of Public and Behavioral Health and in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Dodgers take on the Rockies today at noon on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. We're having fun arguing today. Yeah. Of course, we check it at the door. We're not Twitter muscle guys. We don't argue with people and then take it personally and go crazy on Twitter like so many. Twitter is such a cesspool, man. Like, I just watch what people say to others, and I'm not talking to me. I'm just talking like watching
in general.
It's just like, seriously, get out of your mom's basement or out of the mental institution that you're in. Not making fun of mental illness. It's a huge deal. But it's...
You just walked right into that
one. I know. But, no, and that's true because I talk about it on the show. But I will tell you, you have to be able to argue with people, have a difference of opinion, and then at the end of it, pat each other on the back and say, cool, okay, you have a different view, I have a different view. And that's what we do here. We have fun doing it. We do it off the air a lot. We do it on the air a lot. And this week particularly has been fun doing that as well. So
Twitter gives you a chance to say everything you want to say under your breath in the loudest voice you have.
Yep. Yeah, but without any ramifications.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. What you say under your breath that you don't want anybody, you can say as loud as you want because you're an egg or you're a picture or you're a whatever and nobody knows who you are.
Well, those 35 followers, they know who you are.
That's right.
But I will tell you...
Actually, never mind. It's a family show, so I won't mention the number of followers I have. It's a nice number, and I don't want any more. I'll put it that
way. 69.
That's, oh my goodness. You guys are killing me with that stuff. So, but I will tell you that the debate rages on, I'm sure, and I'm seeing people on our social channels who are watching our live stream on video talk about the running back stuff, talk about women's sports. A lot of folks saying things I wouldn't say, but the whole point about the gate with women's sports versus men's sports, we see that it's a reason why the NFL is so big, and the reason why the NFL is actually growing and needs to grow in popularity with women. But I will tell you that despite all of that, it is a business, and when it comes to sports, what sells in apparel, what sells on TV, what sells from a sponsorship standpoint is what's going to make more money. It's called capitalism.
Yeah.
And I know Bernie Sanders, and this is not a political statement, he's just a socialist. Bernie Sanders wants us to be more socialist. I'm a pure capitalist. So I'm like, hey, look, if you have a great product and people want to watch it, people want to buy it, you deserve every cent you get. And so women's soccer is starting to get there. They've picked it up, so maybe they can. My good friend Doug Verb, longtime executive in professional sports, who's been on the show several times, he said in a message here on Facebook to us, well, they're negotiating, which is a good point. They've
already said they're coming out
Yes.
after the the World Cup stuff's over. They're going to do a renegotiation and everything. And it's like, cool. Well, I don't want to hear in 2 more years. Well, we should be still making more than the man.
Yeah.
Cut
the best deal you can.
You can negotiate that at this point because you are a hotter property.
Yep.
But you have to stick to your guns. You have to say, you know what? We'll sit out. We won't do this if we don't get everything we want, or you'll never get to that point. It's when if someone, you're a business owner, if you know somebody's going to take $11 an hour, you're going to offer them 14. No. If somebody says, I know you want me to work for you, I won't work for anything less than 14, you'll eventually either get to that point or find somebody else.
Right.
But
If their value's there.
Either way, if I want 14 an hour,
Right.
I have to do that to get that.
Well, because if I'm going to pay Chaz $14 an hour, he makes far less than that. But if I'm going to pay Chaz,
So do I.
Yep.
if I'm going to pay Chaz $14 an hour, I want to know that my return on that $14 is going to be significant enough that it's worth the investment.
Correct.
I.e., the same thing with advertisers. If I'm going to get 150 million viewers on television, I'll pay whatever you want for the advertisement. If I'm going to get 10 million, I'll still pay for it. There's value there, but I'm going to have a number, and I'm not going to go over that number. And so that's some of the crux I think you get with it.
And to your point, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So there it is.
You do.
Just ask Julio Jones, who renegotiates his contract every 2 years.
That's exactly who I was going to bring up when you were talking about it.
So this summer too, as we've been in this period of time where it's the dead period in the NFL, one of the things that we think is important to do on the show is to bring you a wide variety of guests to talk about Raiders' future, present, and past. Of course, the last few weeks we had an amazing incident happen here when we were talking to an author about John Matuzak. We had his mother call in, remembering him on the anniversary of his passing. And then, of course, Todd Marinovich last week. And next week, guys, we're going to have a gentleman, a former Hollywood stuntman. You should watch some of his videos. The guy was crazy. Jim Duffner. Jim was a very close, good personal friend with Lyle Alzado.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book about Lyle Alzado and their friendship with stories in it, and we're going to have him on next week to talk about that. So this series during the summer, as you can see, we're kind of putting together some content. We've gotten great feedback on what we've done already. We hope you guys will listen. Lyle Alzado is one of those guys like John Matuzak, who was beloved because of his meanness, his nastiness, and what he did on the football field. And, of course, he had an untimely death as well due to cancer. And so we're going to talk about that. But we like doing this because I think, especially for those in Las Vegas where we're based, a lot of people are going to be Raiders fans. They might not be like you guys and have been Raider Nation for life, but they're going to be.
Right.
And so to be able to educate them and get them to know some of these players that are no longer with us, that are still with us, is something we want to do. So you guys, Chaz, being too a lifelong Raider fan, Lyle Alzado, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name?
I mean, just... The guy was a beast, right? Unfortunately, my last memory of him, he had a bar called Alzado's up in L.A., and I saw him about 3 months before he passed, and he was just a shell of himself. He didn't even look like himself, and it was an unfortunate sight to see one of your heroes just knocked down to that. But, when he played, he was same as Matuzak, man. He just brought it, and he was one of the pillars for that Super Bowl 18. And it's sad the ending that for him.
Yeah, it was, and so he'll share stories with that about that and about Lyle Alzado. So we'll remember him, which will be interesting and fascinating. I mean, I love talking to these guys who knew these players back in the day, so we can get some context, especially because we have a lot of young listeners, a lot of folks who are Raiders fans for life, but they weren't around when all that was happening. Yeah. Like us older guys, as Kelly would call me, an old guy.
And there's so many great Raiders. There's so many personalities back, and that was the one great thing about Al Davis. He let the Raiders be who they wanted, their personality shine,
and so did the coaching staff, Tom Flores, John Madden, everybody like that. Right. So really interesting. Well, we're going to close out the show. Kelly Kreiner, thanks for being, man. I'm glad you're healthy again.
So am I.
Chaz Osborne, thanks again for your contribution today.
Yeah, of course.
All right. For the two gentlemen to my right, I am Scott Branson. You've been listening to Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Make sure you can listen to this archive. Subscribe to us on YouTube for video, and anywhere you get your podcasts or audio, you can subscribe to this show. So if you miss it live, it'll be directly delivered to you so you don't miss another one. Remember, Jim Duffner to talk about his book on Lyle Alzado next week here on the show. You're listening to Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. May the autumn wind always be at your back. See you later, everybody.